Welcome to episode number 198 of the Beyond Social Media Show, the podcast for all of you marketing, advertising, public relations, and communications professionals. We are recording live on Monday, August 21, 2017 on YouTube. Diligent listeners may have noticed that we skipped a week. BL and I both got sick as dogs. So we
on opposite sides of the country.
On opposite sides of the country, yeah. So I don't think we infected each other, but we both came down with the same thing, I think. So anyway, we have a lot to talk about this week. Among the top stories are Race and Terror, Pro Bono Pledge, BuzzFeed Live, Dearest Martha, Vintage Vinyl, Calling Home, Have Fashion Will Travel, The Talk, 3D printed hands, live crossword help, Tigerless Tinder, ancient emoji, planetary protection officer, Putin's shirtless challenge, Amazon secret brand, sensitive content algorithm, and Facebook copycatting, among other things. BL kicks it off with the best story of the week. BL, what do you got?
It is possible this may take us a few more than 30 minutes,
Right.
but I thought the best story of the week was the Vice News Tonight video by Elle Reeve, who's a very brave young reporter who literally risked her life to go behind the scenes with white nationalists, excuse me, including Christopher Cantwell, Robert Ray, David Duke, and Matthew Heimbach, as well as to go with the counter-protesters. And Vice News Tonight is generally on HBO, but they've made it available for everyone to see. She spoke with residents of Charlottesville, members of Black Lives Matters movement, the Charlottesville police. It was an absolutely remarkable video because she was so calm and put herself, she got in a car with one of these lunatics, and she was in a hotel room alone with somebody who was heavily armed, and she was just unflappable, absolutely unflappable. And it was award-winning journalism at its very best. I hope that she becomes really, really rewarded for what she did, because it was a huge service. And to listen to them and hear them and how convinced they are that their point of view is right. It is mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. It was a horrible week, but at least it's documented.
Yeah, exactly. That video or that documentary was breathtaking, and again, another Vice Media work of amazing journalism. I mean, they continue to impress me and continue to do a great job on the reporting stories that a lot of people don't cover, and from that point of view, from that inside look that a lot of people won't cover. So kudos to them. Along the lines of that, some of the reactions to the domestic terror attack in Charlottesville is Josh Bernov. You may have heard the name. He has a Writing Without Bullshit blog, which is very popular, but he's also a best-selling author of a business book called Groundswell. Very, very great, very, very good book. He's former SVP at Forrester Research. In the wake of this act of terrorism perpetrated by American Nazis and Klansmen, let's call it what it is. He published a post calling on decent Americans to do more than express their outrage. So you can express your outrage on social media and everything, but take it another step and take the pro bono pledge. A quote from him: "I offer my services pro bono to any group fighting hatred and intolerance." So that's his pledge. Josh is offering his writing services until I'm overwhelmed, and I imagine he's overwhelmed right now. But so he asks, "Are you a social media expert? Take the pro bono pledge. Do you build websites? Take the pro bono pledge. Are you a carpenter, an Uber driver, a videographer, a lawyer, a mental health therapist? Take the pro bono pledge. Take the pledge, but go out." Go even further and seek out someone. Just don't wait for people to come to you. Seek out someone to help. Resistance starts at home.
And Josh, I had done an interview with Josh on my blog. I'll post a link to it as well. He's an old friend and a really wonderful writer. And this is a great thing that he's done. And I take the pledge absolutely. And last night I was on a MoveOn.org call on which they do one every Sunday night, and it's about how to resist. And one of the things that they asked us to do was to go to moveon.org/censure and ask our representatives to censure the president, which I hope they will do. So another news, BuzzFeed is launching a morning news show on Twitter. And apparently this was announced back in April, but I guess not that many people were paying attention. So the show is going to be called AM to DM. It launches on September 25th, and the focus is the real-time conversation that happens on Twitter. Topics are going to range from politics to movies to social media, just like Twitter. But what's interesting is, I didn't know this, BuzzFeed has more than 300 reporters worldwide. They're going to produce and direct the show, and they say they're going to reimagine the traditional morning television show. It'll be an hour long from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern, and it'll be broadcast on @BuzzFeed News. And they said in a statement, the exciting thing about this show is that while this is so true, while much of television news now is basically explaining to you what happened a few hours ago on Twitter, we get to come to an informed and up-to-date audience from right inside the news cycle. And that is absolutely true. They talk about, you know, President Trump tweeted an hour ago. Yeah, well, we know that. We were there. So it's going to be hosted by BuzzFeed Books editor Isaac Fitzgerald and BuzzFeed News executive editor of culture, Saeed Jones. And it's going to be produced by CNN, Fox, and HuffPost veteran Cindy Venegas-Ghazwali. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And The Verge is also launching a show on Twitter this fall called Circuit Breaker, The Verge Gadget Show. And that's going to be a weekly live program that'll review and experiment with gadgets everybody's going to want to have, and the weirdest ones we're going to want to have tomorrow. And that's going to be hosted by The Verge's Nilay Patel. So both shows are among the many deals made at Twitter's first ever digital content Newsfront's upfront presentation. And they announced a dozen new collaborations. And there's going to be hundreds of hours of exclusive live programming, games, events, indications, all sorts of things that are coming to Twitter. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, Twitter's doing some very interesting things in live streaming shows and getting some quality talent to do it. So I'm very interested in seeing how those play out. I came across something on Twitter, and this is an example of the brilliant creativity that's unleashed by the internet. But this again was in reaction to the Charleston terroristic attack by a Twitter user, Michael Stahlke. Posted a photo of a Confederate counter protester in Charlottesville flipping off a Confederate uniformed doofus named Alan Armitrod. With the caption of this photo, he included a caption that said, "Dearest Martha, the field is lost. We cannot overcome the opposition. Pray for me. My reckoning is near." To which Twitter user Adam Ronsley, a reporter for Foreign Policy magazine, joined in on the thread and added his own comment, his own dialogue to the caption with an imaginary dialogue that began with, "We're low on Hot Pockets and not a Taco Bell in sight. Jebediah says we may go short on rations, limiting us to 6,000 calories per day. Edmund is trying to keep up our spirits with tales of his hot girlfriend who lives in Canada."
Where we should all be going. Yeah.
And then Twitter user Rite took it to an entirely new level by creating a Ken Burns-ish imaginary documentary based on the photo and the dialogue that had just played out on Twitter. It is just hilarious and a perfect example of how you counter protest. Ridiculing, making fun of them is probably the most effective way of defanging them. I think of, I don't know if it's a urban legend or not, but I think of I heard a story of Marilyn Manson, the goth rocker. There's a protester at one of his concerts who managed to unfurl a huge smiley face banner on one of his speakers. I think that's an effective, entirely effective way of defanging somebody's message. So.
But really, I mean, making fun of them is quite valid because they're really such a bunch of idiots. It's so sad. But on a much happier note, because we did promise some happy stories, there's a company in Philadelphia that this is from a Newsworks story by Peter Crimmins, and this company is digitizing 25,000 old records, and these are just the first that they're doing. They plan to do 400,000 more, and these records are 78 RPM discs from the early 20th century, and they're released online for free. And the first batch is a record collection made available by the Internet Archive, and it goes from gospel by the Tuskegee Institute singers to opera recorded in Italy to novelty tunes by Spike Jones to hot, although obscure jazz. And it's all happening in Chestnut Hill in a little storefront building on Germantown Avenue in Philadelphia's Chestnut Hill Avenue neighborhood. And they've been quietly doing this, 178 at a time. And it's nearly impossible to know what the music was intended to sound like a century ago. Each company recorded their 78s at a slightly different speed and cut grooves that could be either fatter or skinnier. And the playback turntables and the needles were often proprietary to the manufacturers. So he solved this problem by making a turntable with 4 tone arms that each holds a different kind of stylus. And on one pass of the record, he can record each stylus to its own digital track. And then you'll be able to listen to up to 16 tracks of the same piece of music so that you get to appreciate the subtleties of the surface noise and the equalization. It's just really remarkable. And this is really incredible. 78s were made from shellac, which is beetle resin, and they were the brittle predecessors of the LP era. So the format is obsolete and they just break apart in your hands. So there's no way to predict if these digital versions of the 78s are going to outlast the physical items. So preserving them is the only way that we're going to have future generations know about this music. Isn't that the coolest?
That's absolutely cool. I've got a couple of albums that are made out of that.
Me too.
Yeah.
Tell you a crazy story really fast. A friend of mine, you know how you can go to an auction and you can buy like a trunk and it has who knows what in it?
Yeah.
And what does he find in the trunk but a 78 RPM album of my grandfather
playing, oh my God!
Yeah, playing on the violin tunes of the Russian steppes.
Wow.
I mean, mind-boggling. You know, what are the chances of that?
Well, wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. So bringing us back to sober good news. Associated Press article by Russell Contreras and Corey Williams tells of Procter & Gamble's ad campaign that they're running featuring a commercial called The Talk. It portrays Black parents throughout the decades having the talk with their children. The talk is about how not to let being called the N-word affect you, how the phrase "you're pretty" for a Black girl is not a compliment, how to behave when you're pulled over by the cops. There were some predictable responses on video responses on YouTube to the ad. Mike the cop was predictably outraged about the driving while Black reference. There's a Black conservative in a Make America Great hat and Pepe the Frog t-shirt criticizing the ad. There's another guy who sees the value of the message and points out that the fathers are barely seen in the ad. Very legitimate criticism. He argues that the ad would be much more powerful if it portrayed both parents having this discussion, which it really doesn't. Nevertheless, the audience is really white people, right? So I think it's a pretty powerful ad, courageous ad for P&G. But it's a great ad and another example of companies choosing sides, really.
Well, the ones that don't right now, I'm worried about, because if this is not a time when brands should take sides, I don't know what the hell would be, you know? it's time to stand up for what is right, and we all know what that is. Anyway, one of the things that is on a lighter vein is Uniqlo. They're so innovative. They're launching airport vending machines for travelers. This is from a Business Insider story by Mary Hanbury, and it's just a brilliant move. It's making buying clothes as easy as buying soda, and it's called Uniqlo to go, and they stock the most popular items from their LifeWear collection, which is thermal heat tech t-shirts and a lightweight down jacket. I have 2 of those. Those are so great. And the first one was launched at Oakland International Airport last week, and 9 more are opening around the country. And they're going to be in Hollywood and in Houston and Queens. And, you know, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Very smart. I will be getting a new feature eventually for my Google Home. Business Insiders, Caroline with the unlikely name of Caroline Cake Bread. I don't know, is that the nom de plume or not? But
it sounds like one.
So Google Home users will be able to call anyone in their contacts or any business over Wi-Fi free of charge. To make a call, you just use the requisite awake word and then chat to your heart's content. The future is rolling out initially in the US and Canada for now. The person on the other end of your call will see unknown or no caller ID, but Google's working on fixing that by the end of the year. If you're a Google Voice or Project Fi user, you can choose to display your cell number and threat instead by using the Google Assistant settings in your Google Home apps. But I've got, let's try it. I'll see if it's rolled out to me yet. Hey Google, call BL Ochman.
Sure. Since this is your first call with Google Home, here's a couple of notes. First, emergency numbers are not available.
Hey Google,
at the end of your call.
Stop. Oh, I got it.
That's cool. That's really cool. But what I wonder is, are you going to have to? What is the sound quality going to be? Are you going to have to wear a headset to be heard?
Well, we'll find out. I'll call you after the show.
Okay. So that's pretty cool.
Did you hear what Google Home said after I said stop? She said no problem. I've never heard that before.
That's a good one. That's a little scary. I was looking for good news. I was desperate for good news this week, and I found a story about the Atomic Lab that makes 3D printed prosthetic hands for people in need. It's from a PSFK story by Zach Palm, and they have given away 500 prosthetic hands over the past 3 years. And so they collaborated with Burger King to create a promotional feature called All Hands on Flavor, which tells the story of people in Argentina who lost a hand and then had it replaced with a 3D printed prosthetic made by Atomic Lab. And during the day, 50% of the sales at Burger King went to Atomic Lab to support their work. So there's a quite moving video that will be on the show notes.
That's fantastic. This is a very, very clever use of Facebook Live. So I just came across this in my stream. New York Times is using Facebook live streams to help solve the crossword puzzle, the New York Times crossword puzzle. So it's hosted by wordplay columnist Deb Men, and she just basically talks people through the crossword puzzle, and people in the comments, viewers can offer their suggestions in the comments for the answers to the crossword. Just a very smart use of the live streaming video. We'll embed the example in the show notes at beyondsocialmediashow.com/198, so you can see it in action along with the comments. It's pretty cool.
I've always been a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
You think about the workplace. We have a couple of people at my workplace who spend their lunch hour doing the crossword puzzle themselves, right? So it is a social thing. Just open that up to the world through social media is pretty cool.
Well, I think that is a very cool way to do it, but I've always been a little bit embarrassed, since I make my living with words, that I can't complete a freaking New York Times crossword puzzle on Sunday. Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I'm also terrible at Scrabble, although I like to play. So, if you are one of these ridiculously stupid people who have posted a picture of yourself on Tinder with a tiger, Tinder says take it down, and they say you're looking for love in all the wrong places. And this is from a Washington Post story by Karen Briard, and apparently there's a surprisingly large population of captive tigers, and they're on Tinder. Because as Karen Briard said in the Washington Post Animalia newsletter, because nothing says I'm the one like a photo with a predator that could rip your face off, right? Thing is, such photos would not be possible, or certainly very dangerous or illegal if taken with one of the world's estimated 3,200 or so wild tigers. So that means these single people took photos with captive tigers. And this is amazing, of which there are estimated 5,000 to 10,000 in the US alone. So Tinder said in a blog post, posing next to the king of the jungle doesn't make you one. It's time for the tiger selfies to go. More often than not, these photos take advantage of beautiful creatures that have been torn from their natural environment. And so Tinder said, we're looking to you to make a change. Take down your tiger photos and we'll make it worthwhile by donating $10,000 to Project Cat in honor of International Tiger Day. And then they suggested that instead of posing with tigers, you volunteer at an animal shelter. And of course, PETA, those reliably insane people, were outraged and demanded that all these selfies be removed. And the World Animal Protection Organization also got involved in it. And, you know, I mean, what a stupid thing to do. Why on earth would you want to take a picture of yourself with a tiger?
Well, I have a very, very easy solution for that. All Tinder needs to do is publish the analytics of the percentage of swipe rights versus swipe lefts on those types of photos, and people will take them down because I imagine there's not a lot of appeal to.
You never know, David. You never know. There's no overestimating how stupid people can be. I've learned that over and over.
So there's a Smithsonian magazine. Jason Daly posted an article, which is this is brief but fantastic. Archaeologists have been excavating the Hittite city of Carchemish along the border of Turkey and Syria for 7 years, and they've unearthed all kinds of artifacts and ceramics. But they recently unearthed one very unique artifact in particular. They unearthed a pot dating back to the 1700 BC, which had on it, wait for it, a smiley face.
Get out.
The earliest example of an emoji.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
We'll post a picture of it
smiley
on the show
face?
notes.
That's crazy.
Face, yeah.
That's crazy. So I just have a sweet little follow-up on the last show. We talked about NASA placing an ad for a planetary protection officer, and they got a response from a 9-year-old boy, a self-appointed guardian of the galaxy. He applied for the job. He said his sister thinks he's an alien already, and that he knows he's a guardian of the galaxy, and he'd be perfect for the job. And they took him seriously, and they responded to him and said, "Stay in school, do well. You know, we'll look for you when you get older. Thanks for responding." I mean, just so sweet. I love when people take stuff like that seriously. And NASA, nobody does marketing better than NASA, with the possible exception of Lego. Yeah. So I just have one really stupid thing to share that probably I should take out of the show notes. Pavel Durov, who's the founder of the messaging service Telegram and VKontakte, went and called for a Putin shirtless challenge because Putin went on vacation and posed shirtless, fishing and doing all these, man things. So this guy hates Putin and apparently has repeatedly clashed with the Russian authorities, no longer lives in the country. And so he started a Twitter stream of shirtless pictures, many of which were just fun to look at, and many of which were like, oh my God, what were you thinking? But anyway, some of them will be on the show notes. You know, we need a little beefcake.
Right. Yeah, I won't be taking the Putin shirtless challenge.
Most of these guys shouldn't have either. So that brings us to what?
I think we're done with the good stuff. On to the worst.
God, that was the good stuff.
That was the good.
We're in trouble now, Dave. Okay, on to the worst. Well, you know, I find this story mind-blowing, but this is from a court story by Mike Murphy, and he noted that they were trawling through over 800 trademarks that Amazon either has been awarded or applied for through the U.S. Patent Office, and they identified 19 brands that are owned by Amazon and sell products or have product pages on Amazon. So that shouldn't be a problem, right? Except that they don't identify those brands. There's no disclosure. You don't know that you're buying something that Amazon is selling to you. So perhaps what they're trying to do as it expands into new businesses, especially where it might not have had partnerships with well-known brands, is to give the impression that there are tons of options to choose from when in fact there aren't. They're all Amazon brands, but consumers may be paying a premium for a brand and they're just generic. So that's just really very peculiar. And calls and emails to the intellectual property lawyer, James Struthers, who filed these trademark applications and filed some of the applications for Amazon, they were unanswered. So many of these brands appear under Amazon Fashion and are right next to the generic house brands that Amazon owns, and they don't feel like they need to tell you about it. So in this article, there was a list of what those brands are, and you'll be surprised at some of their names.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what the big deal is about it. I mean, if there's something wrong with the products, if there's, you know. But
well, don't you want to know who you're buying from, really?
Yeah, I mean, you always you pay a premium for a brand because, I mean, you do. And generic really doesn't mean anything anymore. There's house brands. Generic used to be black and white labeling, remember?
Yes, a long time ago.
That you could really tell that was generic, right?
Yeah, but now you really can't. I mean, when you go to like Trader Joe's or, well, Trader Joe's, the house brand is great. Anything that says Trader Joe's is fine with me. I don't really care who made it. And, you know, there are a couple of other places like that, but I want to know.
Yeah. All right. I'm ambivalent. I'm ambivalent, yeah. Okay. So I came across a Twitter account. So I noticed somebody had a Twitter account had followed me last week called Raging Bull, all caps, no Trump. So the account is called Raging Bull, no Trump, and followed me. And of course, I went to investigate. And when I clicked on the link to the account that had followed me, I got a warning that the account contained potentially sensitive content. I clicked through to find, you know, what was potentially sensitive about it, and it was a kind of standard run-of-the-mill anti-Trump account. The most offensive aspect of it appeared to me to be the prolific use of the F word. But based on what I tweet and what I retweet, Twitter should know that that site really probably wouldn't offend me that much. So either Twitter's sensitive content algorithm isn't very good, or it's easily gamed, because I could see a lot of Trump fans, you know, reporting the site or blocking it. But yeah, I think the Twitter sensitive content algorithm is a little too sensitive. Maybe I wrote a post about this on my. I have the reputation algorithm blog that I just started, where I'm talking about how algorithms affect your reputation. So I wrote a longer post about it with screenshots and everything. But I found it very odd. It just did seem very well working.
Well, I have been thinking that Twitter should be canceling some of the accounts that are filled with hate speech, and I don't see them really stepping up to do that, so I don't quite think they're sensitive enough.
Well, I think maybe they just, their algorithm isn't very suited to identifying them.
Well, it's about time they figure that one out.
Yeah. So are we on to shiny new stuff?
No, as you know, I am not the hugest fan of Facebook, but Facebook copies everyone, and now Facebook is trying to eat the whole internet for years and years, and now they've launched Watch, which has some of their original shows, and it lets viewers share videos, chat with each other. But they launched that last week, and week before that, Google did the same thing. They updated their mobile app to let people share videos and chat. And, Facebook has a new home for original video content. Their partners are going to earn up to 55% of an ad break, and that's very cool. But, you just wonder, how much video can we watch?
How much video do I want to watch, especially if it's interrupted by traditional television advertising?
Exactly. So, there's a limit here on what you can foist on people. And I think Facebook's really close to it. But yeah, for me, that brings us to shiny new objects.
All right, go ahead. I got one. I think you've got two, so why don't you start?
I got a bunch. Well, I got sent a list of 71 Instagram tools for business by an agency called Riotly Social Media, and there's some good tools in there. And so take a look at that. And then I came across tech4reporters.com, which is a beta site where reporters can ask questions about the latest tech news, and where programmers, engineers, designers, and other sorts of thinkers can answer in an anonymous or open forum. It's currently free, and it's in beta testing. And, reporters need quick, accurate answers for stories from the politics of voting machines to the dangers of social media, and this is probably a way for them to get it. So, so another one is Laughable, which is fun. I found this on Product Hunt, and it's an app that lets you discover podcasts that your favorite comedians have been on. So when you need a break.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. Go ahead, give us yours, and I'll give you one more later.
So I came across an app several episodes ago. We talked about a psychiatrist or an AI researcher, I think, actually, who created a chat bot that acted as a psychiatrist, basically, but just through your question, whatever you said, mirrored what you said to draw the conversation out and get you to say more things, and was horrified one day to find his assistant using it. And when he walked in the room, she asked him for privacy. And he was appalled that people would take it that seriously and use it that way, and kind of went from being an advocate of AI to devoting the rest of his career to the dangers of AI. But that's a long way of saying, here's an app. There's an app for that. So I've got an app called Replica.
Oh, you got it?
Replika. Now this is fast forward. This guy that I just referred to had his app in the 60s. So fast forward to now, and you've got an actual powerful artificial intelligence, machine learning, and everything. It's an app that is supposed to be your artificial intelligent friend, and so you talk to it, and it responds. So some of the conversation. Hi, David. We meet at last. It's me, your replica. I like the sound of my new name. So you give yourself a name on it, or give your replica a name. And then it asks, how are you? And I say, I'm good. I can't wait to get to know you better. Can I tell you, can I tell you a few things about myself? I said, please do. I'm curious, so I'll be asking lots of questions. It just has a conversation with you, and you respond. As you respond, it gives you more, it learns more and more about you, obviously. And so it starts referring to those things that you talked about previously in a subsequent session. The basic idea is to get your personality completely online. So when you die, you have that Black Mirror episode where somebody can actually talk to you after you're dead.
That was one of their great episodes, one of the many. Yeah. But I watched the video. The video is fascinating about why she started it. She started it because her best friend had died, and the only way that she had to connect with him was their text messages and their videos. And so it all started because of love, but people are so into it now. It's like, you're my best friend and I love you. And
It's not, I mean, my writing teacher back in the 80s said, we'll be able to upload our personalities eventually, and everybody thought he was crazy. But if you think of everything that you do online, all the emails that you write, text messages you send, we do a podcast every week, the content you create, the Facebook profile, all that stuff, take all that stuff and put it up into one personality profile. Yeah, it's not that, and add some artificial intelligence and machine learning to it. It's not that beyond the realm of plausibility for that to happen.
The question, though, is where that goes. What happens with that?
That's the stuff of science fiction. I want to explore that and write some stories about it.
Yeah, actually. Really. Yeah. So on a more realistic level, Toyota has this Safe and Sound app that is very funny in the end. In fact, it syncs parent and child Spotify lists. And so what happens is that it was created by Saatchi in London, and it blocks social media posts and incoming calls once your kid is traveling over 9 miles an hour. But if they speed, it automatically switches their Spotify to their parents' horrible music that they hate. So parents are free to put as much aggravating and embarrassing music on there as they choose.
All by myself.
And the parent activates the app when the teen wants to borrow their car, and it's not just for a Toyota. You can get it for other cars, which I just think is so funny.
That's fantastic.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
Now that brings us to your daily numbers.
All right, let's wrap this up. Spying on your significant other's messages. This is while they're still alive, not after they're dead, right? This is from data from YouGov, and so internet users who have read a significant other's text messages, social media, or emails by age. So text messages, millennials, 37% of millennials have done that. 25% of Gen Xers have done that. 10% of, actually 25% of Gen Xers / millennials, 10% of Gen Xers, and 23% of boomers have done that. Social, it's basically all millennials lead the way in spying on their significant others by a large margin. Social media, 37% of millennials compared to 23% of boomers, and only 13% of Xers. So we're kind of we're respectful of people's privacies, we Gen Xers. Emails, millennials 31% compared to 22% of boomers. So just on that.
Some people are lying here. I think some people do it and they're not telling.
Oh, that's entirely possible. I left my camera, my phone on the table once while getting our dinner, and came back to find my girlfriend going through my contact list.
Were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised. I was amused.
So I think that brings us to the end of episode 198, and I managed to get through it without a coughing fit. And we'll have links to everything that we discussed on the BeyondSocialMediaShow.com blog. It'll be BeyondSocialMediaShow.com/198. And we hope you'll let us know what you think by leaving us a review and maybe a little love. And I'm BL Ochman. On Twitter, I am at What's Next. I blog at What's Next Blog. I'm on YouTube at What's Next Blog. I have a company called Fun Walkers License Plates, and I write for Media Village and very occasionally for Ad Age. David Erickson is on Twitter at he's at D Erickson. His e-strategy blog is e-strategyblog.com. He also blogs at creativepr.com/blog, which both are terrific blogs that you should be reading. And on YouTube, he's e-strategy. The show is BeyondSocialMediaShow.com. We're on YouTube, Beyond Social Media Show. We're on Twitter as BS Media Show. We're on iTunes, where we hope you will subscribe and leave us a review. We're on Stitcher. We're on iHeartRadio. We're on Google Play. We are back next week. I've already forgotten which day we're coming back. We're coming back on Friday next week. And we look forward to seeing you, and we thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching.